Good evening, everybody, and happy Easter to all of you. Remember, we're still in the Easter season, right? 50 days of celebrating the Easter season. Next weekend, we conclude it with the Feast of the, well, we don't conclude it. Next weekend's the Feast of the Ascension, and then we conclude the Easter season in two more weekends with the Feast of Pentecost. So the last time I celebrated Mass with you was 4 weeks ago for the Divine Mercy Sunday celebration on April 27th. And then, and for the past 4 weekends, the second reading has been taken from the book of Revelation. And Revelation is one of those books, if you've ever read it, the last book of the Scriptures, last book of the Bible, is filled with a lot of symbolism. We call it apocalyptical, say that 6 times real fast, apocalyptical literature. It's a very interesting book, and it was written by John, and as he wrote the Gospel of John, he's exiled on the, I explained this 4 weekends ago, maybe you don't remember, but just real quick, 4 weekends ago, and he's been exiled on the island of Patmos, which is in the Aegean Sea, south of in the collection of islands off of Greece, and Patmos is closest to the western border of Turkey. So the emperor has sent him, because he's a believer, has sent him to the island of Patmos, as many other early Christians were as well. And so John has this apocalyptical literature that he's writing. And apocalyptical literature unveils a period of crisis, because they are undergoing great strife and difficulties, as the early church did. Apocalyptical literature unveils a period of crisis, oppression, darkness, as a way of saying, to hold fast, stay faithful, God will triumph. There will be salvation and redemption to come forth from your times of difficulty. So apocalyptical happenings can happen in our own lives, right? We could be diagnosed with cancer. Nobody likes to hear that word. Some people have to endure that, or any other kind of illness. There's the apocalyptical news of bad finances, or relationships that are on the brink, or society that's breaking down. So apocalyptical happenings can happen on a grand scale, as they did when John wrote the book of Revelation in the year around 96, 97, but it can also happen in our own personal lives. And we have to be able to say, and that's the thrust of the book of Revelation, is to say, even though you might undergo darkness, even though you might undergo great difficulty in your lives, you will triumph. Even if you have to die because of your faith, that's what John is trying to get that message across to the early church. Even if you die because of your faith, you will triumph. You will triumph. So John has this vision today that we read about, and he gives us the image of what's called a new Jerusalem, the new city of God, he says has come down out of heaven. And this new city of God in John's vision does not come from the emperor in Rome. Remember, the emperor is alive and well in Rome. He sent John and other Christians and is persecuting others in other parts of the region, but he sent them to the island of Patmos. And he's the political power of the day. And by the time John sits down to write this particular vision, the Roman Empire really has already conquered and done great harm, utter destruction to the people of Israel, to the Jewish people. The second temple in Jerusalem has been destroyed, and it has never been rebuilt. Yet, with this new vision, remember the message with John is quite positive, even though people are undergoing great strife and many difficulties, great struggles. With this new vision of the New Jerusalem, John is saying to his believers, saying to us that we have a choice, that we are not helpless. He says that you can live like Rome does, and he will describe what Rome is like in chapter 18, a city that is described as Babylon. It's foul, it's immoral, and it's on the brink of dying. Or they and we in our own modern day and age with whatever the struggles are that we're going through, either on a societal level or in our own private individual lives, we can continue to struggle by living as faithful witnesses to God in solidarity with John's vision of a new, vibrant, secure, and abundant society. His vision is a new way of living and being. But, however, the right spiritual mindset is needed for this vision really to come to life. And this vision, this new mindset, is non-negotiable when it comes to being a believer and putting our faith into action in our own 21st century, Just as in the days of John, exiled in Patmos, and other Christian believers, like the reading from the Acts of the Apostles today, and with Christians throughout history. It's good to remind ourselves, remember, once again, that the basic thrust of that reading today from Revelation is that even if you die because of your faith, you will be triumph. You will be triumphant. So in the reading from the book of Revelation today, John in his vision, he sees a very high wall with gates open on each side, and walls are symbolic of community and security in Revelation. The interpretation of these walls is that real security comes from authentic community, like ourselves, in which all people, not just the privileged, feel mutually supported. The life of the community in this vision of John's world is a human race that lives in harmony with God, with one another, and with the world around them and the world around each of us. People then are committed to looking after one another, especially the most vulnerable. Second, he talks about these gates in John's vision, 3 on each of the 4 sides, totaling then 12. And 12 in the book of Revelation is a number that signifies, that is symbolic of perfection. They're always open. They're open to one another, to offer, for all of us to offer hospitality. Openness with one another leads to our honesty and being secure with one another. And it's not about shaming one another or shunning or devaluing one another, but looking at the goodness and the love of God, which is spoken in the Gospel of John today, that love of God which is present in each and every one of us, right? Because each and every one of us is created in the image and likeness of God. Think of your worst enemy, the person that you do not want to talk to for whatever reason it is that you've said, no more. God has created that person in his image as well. And we have to remember that. Third, John's vision of this new city of Jerusalem, this city of God, this new way of living, it says it really has no central place of worship, which is odd. So the city itself, the people that make up the city from all nations living in this new Jerusalem, as is stated, in this new city of God, are the Holy of Holies. So all of us together, each and every one of you, is where the Holy of Holies resides. God is immediately and fully present among community life. Those who live in the new city of God, so all of us, must be conscious of the Holy of Holies, that presence of God within ourselves and within one another. If we could do that more, I think our world might be just a little bit better, freed from violence and all of the other stuff that goes with that, all the forms of darkness that surround us. If we could just see the Holy of Holies in one another. And to begin with, though, I've got to recognize the Holy of Holies living in myself. If I can't recognize it in myself, I'm not going to recognize it in anybody else. And so finally, it says there is even a disappearance of the sun and the moon. The Romans, who have, destroyed the people of Israel and their temple in Jerusalem, they worship the sun and the moon. But the weakness of these gods is now fully revealed because the sun and the moon are no longer needed, as God is present with God's brilliant light by day and guiding light by night in our moments of darkness. So God's purity, God's perfection, his radiant light, it says clear as light, like the precious stone of jasper, God is there, is present. John then in his vision sees God bringing about a new way of living. So, what does this new vision mean for us? How does this new way of living and being that John is envisioning in his apocalyptical literature come about for us in the 21st century? How do we allow the temple of God, that is, the very presence, the very brilliance, the very beauty of God living in each and every one of us, remember, as baptized children of God, especially during these 50 days of the Easter season, how does all of that, how does that Holy of Holies come to life within each of us? I told you that, and I have a little answer. I stumbled across it in a book. I told you that I work at the library on Thursday afternoons and Friday afternoons, and I have to shelve books and put away new books. So I'm always interested in books. So my answer to the question, what does this new vision have for us, or how do we go about it, is in a book that I found. It's called, and it's very appropriate today since I'm talking about apocalyptical literature, A Field Guide to the Apocalypse. Now, I'm not telling you to go out and read this. If you want, sure. Hey, if you ever need a book, I can get it for you. If you ever, I'm an interlibrary loan expert. Just come down to the Copper Queen Library and I can get that book for you. It'll come from any place in Cochise County or some other part of the United States. So, the example I want to give you comes out of this book. It says, A Field Guide to the Apocalypse, a mostly serious guide to surviving our wild times. So my answer is, in that book, and I think all of us, perhaps maybe not all of us, but maybe we know of, I'm not one that has this, but you might know of people who have what the book calls is a go bag. And your go bag, in times of apocalyptical times, it should contain, it says, a first aid kit, an emergency blanket, water purification tablets, emergency food, clothing, matches. I added this one, an extra phone charger, because I thought, how come it doesn't have a phone charger? For that day when there is an emergency, it's talking about this. When there's fires, Ikes here in this area, floods, hurricanes, earthquakes, hopefully, God forbid, a nuclear war, it could be apocalyptical. So using the go bag as our image then, I think we as followers of Jesus Christ are challenged in our own day and age to live with our hearts and minds prepared on a daily basis with a spiritual go bag that is already part of our lives. It's not sitting at our doorway or wherever it might be. No, it's already here inside of each and every one of us. And what we keep in our go bag is not the extra phone charger, it's not the matches, it's not all that other stuff that has to be kept in there. What we keep in our go bag is what our newly elected Pope Leo XIV said in his address to the ambassadors to the Vatican, his diplomatic corps, on May 16th, 1 week after his election. I thought these were three good things to have in our go bag. Pope Leo said to the Vatican diplomatic corps that peace, justice, and truth are the pillars of the Catholic Church's missionary activity. So peace, justice, and truth, then, are what we have in our spiritual go bag. First, Pope Leo says the active gift of peace must begin with careful speech, what we say to one another, how we respond to one another, and reject words of vengeance. He said, words as well not only can wound. I get that mixed up. He said, words as well, not only weapons, can wound and can even kill. We know that, with our words. Secondly, he says that justice must be about investing in the human family and to uphold the dignity of every human person that we come into contact with, especially now with our world facing ever deepening global inequalities. And finally, Pope Leo described the essential need for honest and truthful communication in the world where reality is often distorted. Pope Leo said, when we speak the truth, it is not an abstract principle. It is truth that allows humanity to face its most urgent challenges with unity and with a shared purpose. So, justice, peace, and truth. That's what we have in our spiritual go bags as we undergo those apocalyptical moments in our own personal lives and perhaps in the world, around us. So it might be worth our while during this. Remember, we're in a Jubilee year of hope, right? And we have 2 more weekends, 2 more weeks of the Easter season. It might be worth our while to take time and ask ourselves, were words of peace part of my vocabulary this past week? Or was my goal to attack rather than offer peaceful dialogue? Did I look upon someone different from me with dignity, thus growing my mind and my heart with justice? And finally, did I tell the truth or distort the truth with lies, gossip, and slander when I was online with a friend or when face-to-face with someone else? Peace, justice, and truth, that's part of our spiritual go bag. That's what we're going to take out into the world this coming week. And if we can answer in the affirmative to those 3 questions, then we are about constructing that new vision of the world that John has in the book of Revelation. A new way of living and being. And it's just not for ourselves, but it's for the benefit of everybody else, for everybody else that's around us.